Got my comfy sweater on. It's cold. I'm late, but I'm here. Hey Booktube, it's Kim at Middle of the Book March, and this is my Bookish week, belatedly for February 4th on February 5th. My furnace just kicked on and it will do that, so you'll hear a humming in the background and it'll get louder. Just wait. See, there it is again. So, yeah, I was late today. I wanted to enjoy the cold by not doing anything and wanted to kind of hunker down, get in cozy clothes and kind of hang out in bed and watch TV and not do a lot of anything. I did finish 2 books, so that was good. I am filming on Saturday and I've still got the rest of the weekend to read, and you're not boring me, I promise. So sorry about that. So yeah, so I have plenty of time to keep reading, and I might be binge watching some shows. We'll see. It's definitely warmer today. The last time I looked at the temperature, it was 2 degrees, but tomorrow on Sunday it's supposed to be in the 40s. It's just ridiculous. It's hard to deal with. So hopefully we can get outside and rake some snow off of our roof. That's entertainment in New Hampshire in February. So I did pretty good this past week. I finished 3 books and I've got some really great stuff on the go, so let me tell you about that. The first book I finished was an audiobook memoir, and it was Fire Shut Up in My Bones. And if I have that wrong, I will put the title in a text. And the author is Charles M. Blow. This is a memoir of his life starting as a young boy growing up in poverty in Louisiana, to a black family on a small dirt road with a community of relatives and people who've had that land for generations, and they're living in dilapidated homes without plumbing, without electricity. And he writes about those experiences. He writes about being surrounded by family, but still feeling so isolated and so alone. It's also a memoir of abuse he suffered as a child. He was 7 years old when he was sexually abused by a cousin. He writes in the beginning of the book about a phone call from his abuser when he was abused as a small child. And this person got in touch with him as an adult. And he starts the book with that and how enraged he is that this person felt that it was okay to reach out to him. So we start with that, and then he goes back in time to tell us his story. Now, it's really difficult to review memoirs because I don't want to be guilty of putting down somebody's story, somebody's life experiences. So I review memoirs and I judge memoirs based on the way the person is telling the story and the writing, the form of the writing, the sentences, the ideas that are captured on the page. Well, I was really unhappy with that with this memoir. His story is poignant and compelling. You know, he grew up in a home with a lot of boys, a lot of sons, with a philandering father who was in and out of his life, mostly abandoned the family, a very strong mother who literally protected them from his father's other women, who owned a gun and wasn't afraid to use it, who chased their father away, but at times accepted him back into the relationship. It was definitely a tumultuous childhood. But he didn't tell the story well enough for me to really get the thought in my head or the idea in my head of his emotional life. He talks about feeling alone. He talks about isolation, not getting the attention he craved. And I think that may have kind of caused him to develop into a person far removed from his own feelings and his own emotions. It got to the point by the time he gets to his adult years, he's talking about how he got to college, you know, his he spends an inordinate amount of time talking about his fraternity experiences at college. He was the president of his freshman class. He was a president of the fraternity, I believe. He talks about the abusive hazing. I just literally didn't care that he went on and on and on about those fraternity experiences. And the only thing I could come up with to explain it was because it truly affected him deeply in a negative way. And I get that. But I just thought the way he delivered his story was subpar for me. Even the narration, he didn't narrate it, I don't believe, but the narrator, it felt to me like he was reading it off the page. And if I'm wrong about that, I will again put a text below if he was the narrator. But it was very emotionally distant, emotionally removed from his story. At the end of the book, he made a point he made a comment that he's not attracted to large women because he was surrounded by large women throughout his childhood. At that, I just got disgusted because what's the point of inserting that sentence into your story? It doesn't matter. It doesn't affect what you're saying. He didn't expand on that. And it was like, well, that's insulting and that's offensive, but, you know, hey, that's part of what he wrote. And I just thought, what's the point of the memoir? What's the point? The title, Fire Shut Up in My Bones, I did not, that passion that I think the title gets you ready for was not there. It didn't come across in his writing. It didn't come across in the emotional reaction to the book. So, not a great memoir. It's difficult, like I said, to review memoirs, but this one was not a success. The second book I finished, oh boy, is Maps of Our Spectacular Bodies by Maddie Mortimer. Maddie Mortimer is not even in her 30s. She published this book at like 26 years old. She's a British author. That is her. And this is the story of Leah, who is terminally ill, and it chronicles what's happening as her body deteriorates. There's several different narrators in the story. There's Leah herself. There's Leah going back in the past and talking about a relationship in the past that deeply affected her present. And there is a perspective from her daughter. And so we learn what Iris, as a 12-year-old girl, is going through as her mother is dealing with a terminal illness. We read of Leah's husband and what's happening to the family. It's also a story of the relationship between a mother and a daughter, Leah's mother, Anne. Anne and her husband, Peter, were evangelical Christians. Leah's mother, Anne, was very fervent in her religiosity, and Leah broke away from that as a young person. And Anne was a very cold and distant mother. So what happens when Leah gets sick? What happens? What does Anne do? And does she make changes to their relationships? And so there's a lot of discussion about that. It's a very compelling story. However, this was a very tiring book to read. And it's an interesting, I'm thinking about it in my head. I was fairly exhausted reading this book, and this is why. It's a very different format. There's another narrator in the book that I really don't want to say who it is because I feel like it would ruin the story. So we have a lot of different narrators. But the format of the book, it's really interesting. These are an example of some pages, and there's no cohesive text as in a linear story. There's no, regular paragraphs. There's a lot of font. There's a lot of differing font to delineate who's talking and what the thought processes are. I'm trying to show you, there's a lot of this at the bottom of the page. There's also a lot of poetry mixed in here. So like I said, there's no very long cohesive paragraphs. The book does not take you through a linear story. It goes back and forth and up and down. Mortimer writes a lot of poetry within the text. For me, that's tiring because I felt like in each of these small snippets of text, I had to invest a lot of energy to read the words that she chose in order to understand the meaning, the symbolism, and the metaphors of everything she's writing in here. And it felt like every line was like that. She was devoting a lot of effusive text to describe this scenarios and the story and Leah's health crisis and the deterioration of her physical body. Every line was like that. And it's like when I read a book, I love beautiful writing. I love crafted writing, something very artistic. And this is an author that I would definitely look out for and continue to watch, because she clearly has an enormous gift. But it was too long, I believe. The book was too long, even with very big gaps on the pages. I just thought you need to pull back on some of the writing to give the reader a chance to digest, to have those moments of transition from one paragraph to the next, from one scene to the next. It was every single page was the same. So the way she wrote Leah's life and the way she used words to describe things was very unique. However, it was, at first, I was really impressed. But eventually, it was too much. Not as successful for me as I would have liked, but like I said, she's an author I'll definitely keep my eye on, because I have no issues with reading her next book. I just finished Good Behavior by Molly Keane, and Molly Keane was an Irish author. This is for the project that Britta and I are doing, reading Irish women novelists. And Good Behavior was Molly Keane's, one of her latest books, but the first one she wrote under her own name. It was originally copyrighted in 1982, and it was up against Midnight's Children for the Booker Prize, which, of course, this book did not win. Midnight's Children did. But this is I don't want to say it was a delightful book. It wasn't delightful. Pieces of it were. But this is a really good character study and psychological study of an Irish family in kind of that upper crust country family, a little snobby, very cold, losing their money, losing their property, still trying to hang on to some position, but it's not going well. And Arun is our main character. She is the only daughter, the only living child of this couple. And she lives with a philandering yet a sweet father and a very cold, emotionally distant, judgmental mother. And this book starts off with an interesting scene where Arun is middle-aged and she's taking care of her elderly, ill mother with the help of Rose, the housekeeper. And Arun has prepared a rabbit mousse for her mother for lunch, but she is well aware that her mother can't eat rabbit because it makes her sick. She can't digest it. She can't tolerate it. But she makes this rabbit mousse anyway, and she insists that her mother eat it. She insists that it be served to her mother. And Rose tells her you can't give her rabbit. She can't eat it. And she presents the mousse to her mother and denies that it's rabbit, tells her it's chicken, and the mother takes a bite and immediately gets sick, and she dies. So did she poison her mother? Did she give her food she knew would cause that violent of a reaction so that maybe she had a heart attack and died? You know, we can read into that. But that's the first chapter, and then we go back in time to Arun's early life, her childhood into early adulthood. And good behavior refers to the attitudes that are expected from this English high-level society, families, how you're supposed to behave, what you're supposed to do, how you're supposed to push down your emotions and basically get on with things. You don't dwell on anything. You don't be too effusive in praise or emotion or grief or sadness or anger, any of it. And you're expected to behave a certain way and keep up an image. And those are the things that were communicated to Arun as she was growing up. She is the victim of an unrequited love. She is completely isolated. This is, in the early 20th century. She has no opportunities for career. She's not out and meeting anybody. She meets one person through her younger brother, who she thinks is going to be the love of her life. Things happen with that relationship. She looks back on a favored governess that was one of the only people in her childhood who showed her love. That relationship does not work out. So there's so much to analyze here, and so much to make the reader understand why she did what she did in the first chapter. And so Arun is basically thinking, and she's telling the reader, I'm a very self-sacrificing, considerate person, but as we read the story, is that really how it went? Is that really her part in the family? Why in the world would she insist on giving her mother something she hated? Why would she insist on treating her mother that way, but claiming she's not? It's a really interesting exploration of this family. I really enjoyed it. It wasn't a perfect book for me, and there were times sort of in the middle where it was like dragging a little bit, but it started off with a bang in the beginning, and by the end, it was like the very end of the book. Oh, now I understand why the very first chapter happened. And it made sense. It tied everything together in a very slick, smart way. And so I really enjoyed this book. And another one down in the Irish Women Authors Project for me and Britta. So those are the 3 books I finished last week. What's going on right now? I am judging the BookTube Prize in nonfiction, and I was assigned a round for the Octo Finals. I have Group D in nonfiction. So I have checked out my first 3 out of 6 books from the library, and I started reading 2 of them. This one is a memoir, It's Lost and Found, by Catherine Schultz. And this one is Half American by Matthew F. Delmont. The subtitle is The Epic Story of African Americans Fighting World War II at Home and Abroad. And this is going to fit really nicely in with Black History Month for February for this month. I haven't started this one yet. I just read a few pages of the beginning. This is Paradise Falls by Keith O'Brien. The subtitle is The True Story of an Environmental Catastrophe. This is a book documenting Love Canal. And what else? I am listening to The New Jim Crow by Michelle Alexander. I have a hard copy, and this is interesting because I'm listening to the audio. Excellent narrator, but I may have to go into the physical book because when a book is this good, if I'm listening to the audio, I want to go back to the paper. I have 3 books coming. I am actually I already dipped into Mama Day by Gloria Naylor, which is the February pick for the Blind Eye Book Club that I am running. And I am going to be reading Betty by Tiffany McDaniel for the Critical Chicks in Real Life Book Club. We are going to be meeting on the 17th or 18th of February, so this was our pick for that. And Heidi and I are going to be doing a buddy read towards the end of the month. We are going to be reading A Raisin in the Sun by Lorraine Hansberry. Again, excellent play to read for Black History Month. I have never read this. I've never seen a production. So I'm really looking forward to reading this. And Heidi, if you're watching, I'm assuming we're still doing this buddy read. So that's it for me. What is it, Sunday? Yeah, it's about 3:45 in the afternoon right now as I'm talking to you. So hopefully it's gotten a little warmer outside. It's really nice to stay in and have no plans, and I have a stack of books, and I've just finished 2 in the last day or 2. And it's always exciting for me when I finish books, and now I have those time slots, those pockets of time where I devote energy to a new book, and it's so awesome to pick up a new one and start that and plug that one into the schedule. So that's it for me for today. Let me know what you think of any of the books I talked about. Let me know if you've read any of them before. And let me know if you're doing the BookTube Prize and if you're looking forward to that and how excited you are. I am so glad I got picked for the first round. I was really, really waiting and really looking forward to it. And I can't wait to read nonfiction. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye, everybody.